Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for African News with me, Georja Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Tunisia stands on the brink of its first ever free presidential polls. Sunday's elections have come after a bumpy 3-year post-revolutionary transition. We hear from a man on the ground about people's democratic hopes ahead of this milestone. Also, a town in Democratic Republic of Congo is hit once again by suspected Ugandan rebels who've massacred dozens. People of Beni say their attackers dressed as soldiers to trick their way in. And we're joined by Senegalese photographer Omar Victor Diop, fresh from having caused quite the storm on the Parisian art scene, having exhibited his work at the prestigious international art fair, Paris Photo. But first, Tunisia is gearing up for its first ever free presidential elections. Since the 2011 revolution, it's been a bumpy road, but Tunisia is the only Arab Spring country to overall keep the transition on track. Earlier parliamentary polls saw moderate Islamists in Narda beaten into second place, and victors, the secular Nida Tunis, say they'll wait to see who's chosen as president in Sunday's poll to form a coalition government. Well, our Chris Moore's in Tunis. He tells us more about the front runners for the top job.
First of all, there's certainly plenty of choice for Tunisian voters on Sunday, Georgia. No fewer than 27 candidates are standing, including 6 figures from the Ben Ali era allowed back into the fold for the first time. Plenty of former Ben Ali era dissidents as well. The main players, really, Beji Caid Essebsi, who's leader Tunis party, as you said, beat Ennahda in those parliamentary elections. He's now eyeing the presidency, styling himself as a kind of a father of the nation figure. His main rival, Monsef Marzouki, says all of this is very dangerous. Essebsi is 87 years old, a veteran who served under both of Tunisia's post-independence presidents. And Marzouki says a vote for him is a vote for a return to the former regime. Neither Tunis, I should add, reckons that this is nonsense. They think that things have moved on from them, and that their political family is a very broad one. All in all, things are unlikely to be decided on Sunday, given the size of the candidature. We're likely to see a second round on December the 28th. As you said, a coalition still up for negotiation. And as such, Ennahda, beaten in those parliamentary elections, they remain the country's second biggest political force, one with a very loyal and disciplined electorate. They're kind of hedging their bets, really, refusing to back any of the candidates. And I guess making a decision on where they go next after Sunday, with so much potentially still up in the air.
At least 11 people died and many more were injured after a stampede erupted at a religious ceremony at a Zimbabwean sports stadium. Police say there were around 15,000 people crammed in at the site near Harare to hear the service of celebrity preacher and self-proclaimed miracle worker Walter Magaya. It's not clear what sparked the crush, which happened as worshippers rushed to the only exit at the end of the event. People in the Congolese town of Beni say they've once again been the victims of Ugandan rebels who've targeted their community already several times this year. Witnesses say that ADF Nalu fighters killed between 50 and 80 people in a massacre late on Thursday. Our Lisa Westerhoff brings us the latest.
Tonight, at least 10 bodies have been brought to the local morgue, but the death toll could be much higher. According to survivors, at least 50 people were killed in this new brutal attack. The killings took place 10 kilometers east of the main road in 3 villages in the middle of the forest, which explains why it took some time to hear about the attack and to find the first bodies. According to witnesses and survivors, the attackers were wearing military uniforms and pretended they were soldiers of the Congolese army. But from 4 p.m. until the sunset, they started killing absolutely everyone crossing the road, farmers, villagers coming back from the market, using machetes and firearms. This time again, nobody claimed the attack. The attackers actually left exactly the way they came, without being apprehended. In 2 months, this is the 7th massacre taking place in the area, killing at least 200 people, which explains that people are more and more puzzled to see that the Congolese army and the United Nations Blue Helmets are unable to protect the population. Actually, more and more people start to think that there might be some elements of the Congolese army who are involved in these attacks.
Lisa Westerhoff there for us. Security forces in Togo used rubber bullets and tear gas to disperse thousands of demonstrators protesting against the possibility of President Faure Gnassingbé running for a third term next year. Now, he came to power in 2005 after his father, the former head of state, passed away. Olivia Salazar-Winspear has the latest.
High security in Lomé as anti- and pro-government protesters camp out in Togo's capital, less than 2 kilometers from each other. Opposition supporters are out in the streets, calling for President Faure Gnassingbé to step down and not to present himself in next year's election.
50 years in power, that's enough. His dad had 27 years and his son's had 2 mandates now. Enough. We don't want that in this country.
In the other camp, those supporting the Togolese head of state believe presidential mandates shouldn't be limited, that Gnassingbé can seek another term, and that no one is to touch the constitution.
4 months before the presidential elections, we can't touch this text.
Yet anti-government protesters want to return to the old constitution. The text was set aside by former leader Gnassingbé Eyadema, who died before rewriting it.
We need to go back to the limit on mandates of the global political agreement.
The Togolese Opposition Alliance has been pushing for political reform since 2006. In June of last year, they submitted draft legislation to the National Assembly, where it was rejected by lawmakers from the majority ruling party.
We're joined now by Senegalese photographer Omar Victor Diop, fresh from having caused quite a storm on the art scene after exhibiting his work at the prestigious international art fair Paris Photo. He only started taking photos seriously 4 years ago and has already established creative greats like France's Jean-Paul Goude singing his praises. Omar, thanks very much for coming in. Congratulations.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
No, well, we could not. It's been quite a crazy week for you, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. I mean, a lot of emotions, a lot of work, and a lot of feedback, live feedback from people. It's not every time that you have this opportunity to talk about your work with people that you respect and that you look up to, and that's exactly what happened. So it's been quite a week, yeah.
Because you were telling me that you actually met Grace Jones.
Yeah, I met her because I met Jean-Paul Goude, and I was talking about how inspirational he's been. I mean, I've been watching his productions and his images ever since I was 5, and I was telling him all that. And then I was very happy to be invited after the exhibition to a function where Grace Jones was and the whole family. And that was a moment, yeah.
Well, Jean-Paul Goude was one of those who said they found your work inspirational. Now, what we're talking about is your project, Diaspora. It's a lot of it's like self-portraits. It's historical self-portraits with a twist. Tell us a bit more about where the ideas came from.
Well, I actually was doing a research on the representation of the black traveler and stranger in art history, especially in Europe. So I came across these characters who have all been brought to Europe as slaves or sent by their kingdoms as diplomats from the 16th to the 19th century. And I realized that I had never heard about these people, and very few people know about them. So I thought it would be interesting to sort of drag them back in the current conversation about immigration and finally the role of Africa and Africans in civilization, in global culture and politics. So I decided I would invest myself a bit more than just being a photographer. I decided to impersonate these characters. It was a way for me to celebrate them.
Now, you were telling me that you actually spend a lot of time traveling since you've shot up in the art world. Do you still see Senegal as being home? Oh, yeah, definitely. There's no place like home. You know, Senegal is my inspiration. It's also my family. And over these 4 years, I've created a little team of people that I work with. I have my tailors in the popular markets and my makeup artists and my models. So, you know, I think it's essential for what I do to be grounded and to be in touch with people who inspire me the most. And for now, it's in Dakar that I find them, yeah. Well, brilliant. Thanks so much for making the time to come out and see France 24.
It's my pleasure.
Congratulations again on your stellar and very quick success. Omar Victor Diop there, fresh from having exhibited at in Paris his project Diaspora. Well, that wraps up African News from me. Do stay with us, a short break and more coming up. Take care.